So, sure. So let me just give kind of just a brief intro of kind of where things stand. And Liz Waddy is joining me, who many of you probably know is the Deputy Director of Current Planning. So she can probably answer many of the questions that I can't. And if I seem rattled today, I just found out that Linda Tripp died. Check your news. I'm sure we're all yeah. So one, I just wanted to say we're open, right? In most of our staff, 90% plus of our staff are working remotely and working productively. I think we made some great decisions prior to me being at the department to invest in technology, in upgrades to our systems to allow us to be able to work remotely, for our files to be digitized, for applicants to file for entitlement applications online. We're getting ready to move in to the new building at 49 South Van Ness. And so a lot of the investment we made in anticipation of that has paid off for us during this period. So we're open, accepting applications. It's certainly not business as usual. We've got many of our staff down at Moscone acting as disaster service workers, others who are sick or furloughed because they're caring for loved ones or children. So, you know, bear with us during this time. It's not going to be perfect, and we're trying to figure things out kind of as we go along. But I've been kind of pleasantly surprised with our ability to work remotely and be productive. And it's thanking many of our staff, especially our tech staff, but our current planning staff, who have been working hard and have been flexible and have kind of taken their work home to their kitchens and living rooms and dining rooms. So thanks to them. We're able to do most things remotely, albeit probably slower. We're prioritizing essential projects, and that definition changes as we go along. It was all housing and affordable housing projects. Now it's housing projects with 10% of the affordable, at least 10% on-site affordable. So that's what we're prioritizing in our workload, but we're taking on more than that as we move along. Where we kind of hit a wall is with our ability to do, you know, robust public outreach. And I'm sure on your projects, you're having the same kind of questions and issues on how you do that. We're figuring out our commission meeting. We haven't had one since I started almost a month ago now. Our first one is scheduled for tomorrow. We had kind of a mock run through. We've had a couple of them today. It's not going to be perfect. If anybody has watched the Board of Supervisors meetings, you know, they're trying to feel their way through. We want to make sure we're able to have presenters or project sponsors present, and also for the public to be able to weigh in on projects. So we're starting that slowly. We took mostly projects that are deemed kind of essential housing projects with affordable housing components. The biggest item we're hearing tomorrow is the initiation of the Balboa Reservoir General Plan amendments. So that's our focus. We're also focused on, the mayor set up, you may have heard, a task force to look at recovery, like what happens when we come out of this. I think it's hard for us to predict where we will be, how long the kind of slowdown will be, or are we in a prolonged recession? But we're focused on feeding policy proposals and ideas to that task force, basically doing two things. One, how we can help our small businesses and commercial corridors. I mean, we already know there were issues with vacancies and high levels of retail ground floor vacancies. That's going to be compounded as we come out of this. So what we can do to help fill those vacancies, do it quicker, but also help existing businesses perhaps retool and take on things they can do differently to survive. And then to make sure the projects we are all working on proceed, so we're not slowing things down post-COVID and when we get out of this, and so things can proceed and people can get back to work. So Liz, I don't know if you want to kind of fill in anything I missed, but happy to answer questions after we hear from DBI too.
Sure. Just the only quick thing I would add in there is I'm going to post a link onto the chat feature here that takes you to our homepage that we have dedicated during the shelter in place, which should give the latest and greatest information about kind of the state of our procedures right now. So the best way to Todd's question, the best way to contact us, it has that information there, both for general inquiries or if you have an active project, how you can go about contacting the project planner, which I would always say, if you have an active project, emailing the project planner is always the best way of doing that. Most folks should know who that is. If not, our property information map always has that contact. So I'll go ahead and put that link in the chat. It's also the place that we are providing any other updates in terms of how we are processing things. So for example, we had paused doing building permit notifications, known as 311 notices, when the shelter in place took effect on the 17th. As of this past Tuesday, so on the 7th, we basically flipped that switch back on and restarted all of those notices that were midstream, as well as started enabling new notices to go out. Part of that was coupling that with the ability to take discretionary reviews online. So we now have a way to take discretionary reviews online. So all of that type of information, as well as information about pre-application meetings. We've been getting a lot of questions about how developers can host those meetings during this time. All of those types of specific questions are all on this one page, and we'll continue to update this page as things change. So hopefully that just went through in the chat. If not, let me know.
Yep, and for those that didn't see, sfplanning.org/COVID-19. Again, if you click on the chat feature at the bottom, that's where you can ask questions as well as get the link from Liz. Awesome, thank you much. And so now we will turn it over to Patrick O'Riordan, who is at the moment in time, Present Interim Director of the Department of Building Inspection. Director O'Riordan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Corey. Thanks for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here with all of you guys, our stakeholders and part of our industry. So I'm relatively new to this job, March 18th, as a matter of fact, so into the fryer here, I guess. But at any rate, I have some updates for you. We're living through extraordinary times, as you all know, and whatever information we provide you today, it's as accurate as things are based on what's going on today. Like you mentioned earlier, Corey, things will be different tomorrow, might be different next week. The order may be lifted May 3rd. Hopefully it is, and we can get back to our regular schedule and the way we have been used to doing business. Really, I mean, the update from DBI is we're literally converting an entire 100% paper process to a 100% digital flow in the middle of a pandemic. Not an easy task, as you can imagine. So we have all the concerns of staffing and making sure our staff are safe. And there's a huge effort underway to make sure that we can equip our staff with laptops and VPN and have them work remotely as much as possible, while facilitating the requests that come in from the construction community in regards to submittals and documents they'd like to see reviewed, especially, as Rich mentioned, the essential projects, such as housing, and we're also looking at the public projects, which don't probably impact you guys that much, but we are giving great focus to anything that is housing related, and it is being prioritized. So as of April 1st, we started accepting addenda, revisions, and requests to convert plans from paper to electronic for essential projects. Now, starting tomorrow, we will be accepting addenda, revisions, requests to convert plans from paper to electronic for essential and non-essential projects. We'll be accepting new building permits requests for essential projects as defined by the order for ADUs, and permits or scope that only require fire plan review for essential and non-essential projects. In other words, if somebody needs to get a permit for fire sprinklers or fire alarm, that will obviously be something we'll be accommodating. Starting the end of this month, we anticipate to be ready to accept all new projects, both essential and non-essential, and basically be back closer to pre-COVID-19 work capacity with all staff working remotely, and processes will be remote. We are also thinking about records and that all our divisions and how to bring them digital in the coming days and weeks. With questions, reach out at any time to DBI. We have our DBI customer email, and it is DBI customer service at sfgov.org. And again, I'd like to say thank you very much for your patience and understanding. And there were a few questions that were agendized, Corey, and maybe I can speak to those because I think they're questions that a lot of your folks there would be interested in hearing about. Like I just said, we're in the process of running a pre-application web meeting, and actually we're going to be starting Monday. We have a project in mind, and this is a pilot for moving forward with additional meetings, online meetings. We're still performing inspections. We're performing inspections on the essential projects. So housing, as Rich said, with 10% affordable on site. We're facilitating inspections based on maintaining habitability. So in other words, for even the smaller projects, if somebody needs to finish remodeling their kitchen or bathroom to maintain habitability or to facilitate them being able to move back into their place of residence, we're looking at those inspections. We're obviously anything that's life safety related. If a project has to shut down suddenly based on the recent order last week and the revised order, we're looking at engineering letters that we're receiving explaining to us why they need some more time to get the project to where it's in a safe condition. So are we using combination of electronic and hard copy versions of the code? What percentage? So we are moving close to 100% workflow as possible. San Francisco Unified School District just announced that they will be closed to June 2nd. We anticipate the shelter in place will remain for the foreseeable future, so we will need to go remote. It is the safest way for customers and staff to work and keep our city moving. We will, of course, work with customers who struggle to go remote and offer additional trainings, etc. But for everyone who can go remote, we strongly encourage that. So what percentage of employees have access to codes? The answer is 100%. The codes are all digital, so our staff have access to the codes. What's happening with hard copy plans? I'm actually going to turn it over to Cyril Yu from our plan check group, and he can speak to that a little bit. Cyril, would you like to? Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. So right now, it's a case-to-case basis right now. A lot of these projects are basically wrapping up, are their final stages. We're basically allowing them to finish up with paper. We have drop-off spots, DBI, coordinating appointments or whatnot. For projects in the initial phase, planning, building, all the revisions will get submitted digitally online, and basically they'll come in for review. So these are, depending on where the projects are, we kind of quality control to see where they are in the process. And then we basically select, hey, you know what, this is probably wrapping up. You go finish this with the paper. Please make an appointment with your plan viewer, with our quality control staff to wrap this up so you get the permit issued. And right now we're focused on essential projects. For projects, with planning or building, which other departments haven't reviewed yet. These we want to get the comments that are issued, they're going to get addressed, and then we want these to be submitted digitally.
So I just want to add to that, Corey, and everyone here, that we're trying to be really careful with maintaining our social distancing requirement, both in the building and with, as Cyril just spoke to, people who will have paper plans. So we're, obviously you guys know we're closed to, the building is closed to the public. So what we're thinking is that we'll set up a drop-off location outside of the building, and the customer can come with the paper plans if they need to submit paper plans. They will be put in like a shopping cart. We will bring those paper plans inside of the building. We will put them in a secure location for 24 hours, and we won't work on those plans for 24 hours. That's what's suggested to us by our advisors from a health perspective. So that's kind of the plan, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands we're close to the public. People have been knocking on the door, trying to come in, like missing DBI, but you know, we're simply close to the public for at least until May 3rd, and we'll see, you know, if it is extended past that. So I don't really have too much to state. I'm open for questions and happy to address anyone's concerns.
Great. So it looks like people are dropping questions in the chat. So just going to take them from the top. Mr. Irving Gonzalez asks, Mr. Reardon, when will you be able to make new digital submittals for over-the-counter level permit applications for, say, projects like accessible building interests and other similar TI projects? So just for over-the-counter permits, what's any sort of idea on timeline of when those will start moving forward?
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Dan Lowry, and I think he'll have good answers for you on that. Dan is the Deputy Director of Plan Review Services, by the way. So,
hi, Dan.
Yep. We're submitting the application digital, so you could submit them, and we could accept them. And on starting tomorrow, and then our IPR group, the in-place permit process above, could actually send a job card out and a permit application out digitally, and we can look at the approval, and we can send that out. And as far as payment, though, we're still working on getting a credit card. That's not approved yet for offsite. All we're doing is accepting checks at this time. We were able to accept the wire transfer, and soon we'll be able to accept the credit card offsite. So we should be able to have a payment process and to submit a permit online.
So I'm sure that's good news for everybody. So tomorrow we'll be accepting digital submissions of documents, and like Dan said, we're the payment thing. We're working on the credit card end of things, but we're accepting check and wire transfer right now.
Great. So next one we're getting regarding ADUs. Sounds like yesterday the permit center was saying ADUs could not be submitted, but now there's an indication that they are. Are we good to submit for ADU applications right now?
Yeah, well, ADUs can be submitted. I think there was a little bit of confusion there with the health order, because the health order allowed construction of ADUs only if the ADU was associated with soft story work. So I think that created a bit of confusion, but ADU submittals can be made tomorrow, whether they're mandatory soft story related or not.
This is a question in the kind of essential work areas. Are soft story permits that often precede affordable housing rehabs considered essential, even if the work is in a commercial space to support housing above?
That's a really good question, and it's a kind of a difficult one to answer, because a lot of these retail spaces have residential spaces above, and as we know, most people are sitting at home, and the impact of the construction is considerable on a building full of residents. So are those projects essential? By definition, in the order, the answer is yes, if we look at the frequently asked questions that were put on our website on Friday. But it does say, there is a little disclaimer at the bottom line of that frequently asked question and answer, stating that if a project can reasonably be delayed. So again, we have to consider these on a case-by-case basis. We don't want to leave a project that has commenced and leave it in a potentially unsafe situation, unshoring, or but if it hasn't started, you know, really the thought is that it can be delayed for a few weeks, because if it hasn't started, the building has probably been there for 100 years. We've been trying to get people to comply with this requirement for 5 years. And I don't know, I don't see a good reason why it is they would need to start it in the next 3 weeks. And you know, when we think about this too, we have to think about tenants in a building. And if they're being impacted by the construction and they want to get away from it, then they're going to be leaving that building in the middle of this epidemic and going out into the public. So we don't want that either. So we're very focused on you know, the safety aspect of all of this. And can it be delayed for 3 weeks? You know, in some cases, yes. In some cases, no. We're always willing to accept an engineer's letter that tells us they have to do some scope of work to make the building safe, so that it maybe can be delayed for a few weeks. That's.
And Liz, I see you have your hand up, so I'm gonna jump to you if you have something to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up and just provide a quick point of clarity for both Irving and Serena's questions about permitting and what's going digital tomorrow, just to kind of hone in on some of the weeds there. So for tomorrow, I think what's really important for folks to know is we basically are opening up receiving revisions and addenda for all types of projects that already have a permit in. And then for brand new building permits, we're launching this as sort of baby steps here. So we're starting brand new permits, accepting those considered essential by the health order, ADUs, and that's all ADUs, not just the ones that we had most recently been doing under the health order as associated with seismic. So all ADUs, and permits that are basically fire department life safety only type permits. So again, to recap, starting tomorrow, online we'll be accepting revisions and addenda for any type of permit that's already in the system, and brand new permits for a much smaller subset being new construction of essential ADUs and fire department only life safety permits. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page with that.
Appreciate it. Cool, so next one down, are wet signatures going to be required on any remaining hard copy plans?
Something electronic signatures.
Sorry, can you repeat that, please?
We're basically going digital, so we're accepting electronic signatures.
So for anything, basically everything going forward, if it's needs to get signs, we'll do it electronically.
That's correct. They could do that. And if they want to pursue, if they want to wrap up projects in paper, you know, they're going to come in and they're going to sign it, and then, you know, come and drop off, you know, the revisions or whatnot in paper. So everything basically going digital will be electronic.
I guess the preference is digital. But
yeah.
If something is already in the mix, then there's paper documents in place, and it's a matter of slipping in some pages or whatnot. I mean, we can accommodate that.
You know, I just want to add, we're having a lot of conversations with a lot of different planning departments and commissions and staff around the entire Bay Area, and San Francisco is really ahead of the curve. And just way ahead of where everybody else is. So just kudos to everybody that is making this happen. It's trust me, it's better here than in other places right now.
Yeah, in regard to that, Corey, I just want to applaud my staff here. Everyone is putting in an incredible effort, and they really do care. And it's you know, like I said, we're part of the community, and we want to get this as good as we can, given the circumstances.
Okay. Next one here, asking Patrick to repeat the
Sorry,
projected.
hold on. Actually, I think Liz raised her hand again. Am I correct, Liz?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on the electronic signature conversation just on the planning front. We're going to be also leveraging DocuSign signatures. This is more from our side of the signature, but I know especially for a lot of projects that have accessory dwelling units, the one issue where we're still having challenges moving electronic signatures forward is on Costa-Hawkins agreements. So those are the regulatory agreements that most ADU projects need. Those, the state of California, so far as we know, are not allowing notarized signatures to move forward in a digital fashion. But pretty much with that being the only exception, we're moving all of the documents that the zoning administrator needs to sign and that Director Hillis needs to sign to DocuSign. So those should all not be roadblocks in terms of wet signatures either.
Awesome. Yeah, and Todd, I'm kind of down on the chat here, trying to make sure these things come in. So thanks for keeping an eye on hands. Question, can Patrick repeat the projected date for non-essential project digital plans review will commence again? Wouldn't that just sort of be in the whenever, actually no idea. For non-essential projects, digital plans, any sort of idea about when that's?
Yeah, well, the date on that is tomorrow. We're going to be accepting essential and non-essential tomorrow.
Okay. Next one from Karen Payson. Our project was approved for 311 notifications, and we were about to pay the fee in person on the day that the stay in place order was made. How do we restart that process? Maybe if she's around. So basically, if
Yeah, Liz, do you want to take that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one again?
Yep. Our project, so if you're able to see the chat at 424, Karen Paysons, our project was approved for 311 notification, and we were about to pay the fee in person on the day that the order to stay in place was made. How do we restart the process?
That is a great question. So we are still receiving some, so I assume what Karen means is she was dropping off ready to make the payment for the postage on the 311 notification. That's usually the fee associated with 311s. We are still having someone go into the office to receive checks that come into the mail. It is obviously more of a delay than normal. So that is still an option that's available for us to process. That is probably the only process we have right now. We are trying to leverage a way to, if you create a user profile in the planning department's online portal, there is some way for us to oftentimes post payment, but we haven't totally worked through that. So I would say, Karen, for right now, go ahead and mail in a check, and that's probably the best way, but there will still be a delay. If we figure out a way to take payment for 311s digitally, we will again up on our website with that information.
All right, so next one down's just generally about pre-app meetings, and
Hey, Corey, I'm sorry. I think you skipped Henry Carnelitz's question at 423.
How about her getting permits issued?
Saying this is all we're accepting.
Yeah. I don't know, Henry, if you're there and maybe want to elaborate.
Yeah, I am here. Thank you very much. You know, I'm looking at permits that are like without drawings even, you know. Is there any way to do those electronically? And then once they get issued, how do we go get them picked up? Do we get hard copies, or can they be emailed actually? And then we can get them printed off our own print or whatever, and use them as a permit with a job card also. Hello?
I think that one's for Patrick. Are you there? That one's.
Patrick, I think you're on mute.
Henry, can you just repeat that question one more time, please? I didn't
Yeah,
catch
sure. Hi, Patrick. Yeah, I'm just wondering, you know, you get a lot of these projects that are coming in that are, you know, the small remodels where they're without drawings, and they want to get permits for those sort of projects. How do they go about doing that? Is that possible to be done electronically, where you could just apply electronically, and then right now, let's say you send a check in, but then to get it issued, is there any way to get it? You guys send it out electronically, and we print it, and we use that what's sent electronic as a permit and a job card. Is that coming up, or?
That's coming up, Henry, just for you.
Thank you. Zero.
Yeah, and basically you can start applying for those permits, for non-essential residentials, probably end of April. That's what we're gearing for. What's effective tomorrow is basically, any new permits to existing jobs that we have already. Essential infrastructure, new permits for essential infrastructure, ADUs, mandatory seismic retrofits. So everything that's beyond that, we're working on the process to get that, end of the month or early May.
So I just want to speak to that. I misspoke a little bit earlier because when I said all new permits tomorrow, that's what I should have added to my comment, that it was permits for essential projects, ADUs, and for fire-related type permits. So I just want to make that clear. By the end of the month, we're expecting to be accepting new permits for everything.
Thank you.
Great. So next in the queue, just the process for pre-application meetings. I have heard from project sponsors that they're going to be happening online. Staff maybe elaborate on what that process could potentially
Yeah, that's
look
correct.
Like
our process is still the same about, emailing the pre-application meeting minutes for quality control. We vet these, we vet the pre-apps. After that, the appointments are scheduled, and these are going to be done via audio or video conference.
And I'll make a plug. Director Hillis mentioned Balboa tomorrow. There's a Balboa Reservoir community meeting tonight. If folks are interested in seeing what those online community meetings that the city is working with. I know we've got a pro-housing crowd here, so any additional pro-housing voices at tonight's Balboa meeting would be appreciated. All right, so question from Irving. Again, are we still limited to the 36 by 48 format, or can we also have 30 by 42 and 24 by 36 formats as well? I'm assuming people understand what that means because I don't.
Yeah, I think right now we're gearing to kind of like industry standard, which is ARC D and ARC E, which is 24 by 36 and what's that? 36 by 48. I mean, those are the typical standards. I mean, that we're accepting right now.
All right, and then from Doug Fowler, is there a process in place at DBI to pay for and pick up approved addendum from the CPB?
Yes, there is, and it's by appointment, and this gets vetted out by our, plan review staff to ensure that these are essential projects right now being issued for construction, because there's no point to issue projects that, that are non-essential, that during the shelter in place.
Okay. Question for Director Hillis and Liz. Many planning applications require information that cannot be gathered, or reports like historic resource evaluations, for example, that cannot be prepared while the shelter in place is in effect. Will planning still accept applications without these materials while the shelter in order is still in place?
Rich, do you want me to grab this one? Okay. I would say it depends. So there is some information that we normally require that is necessary for us to have in order to complete our review. So for example, some historic resource assessments require historical research to have been done. Oftentimes that takes place at the public library. And that's just information that we really need to have in order to do our effective peer review of those documents. So if it's that type of information that can't be obtained during the shelter in place, we won't be able to accept that application. Basically, our clock can't start if we can't do our review. There are other things that we are willing to be a little bit more flexible on. So typically, for example, we require people to submit site photos of the property and across the street and in the rear yard, for example. Those are the kind of things that right now we're trying to be flexible with and leverage other technological resources like Google Street View and aerial mapping tools that we have to be able to really feel like we understand the property and the neighboring properties to do our review. So I would say it really is on a case-by-case basis of whether it's something that's a need to have in order for us to do our technical review, or whether it's just sort of a typical thing that we like to have as part of the record that we can maybe get farther down in our review. So we will be taking it a bit on the case-by-case. I know that's not a great answer, but that's the general sort of spirit of the direction rather than letter of the law that we're moving with in terms of all of those materials.
And then I feel like a little bit in the same world, maybe for DBI, how strict is DBI going to be looking at the format of digitally submitted projects? We have addendum submittal plans that have different size title blocks. Will it still be allowed to be submitted?
I think that's on a case-to-case basis. Right now, we're setting up standards for electronic submittals. Yeah, so there, we understand there's multiple design professionals. They have different title block sizes. I mean, right now we're just kind of checking the overall formatting, make sure that they allocate, because all the drawings are going to be stamped digitally, allocate some kind of room, on each page, hopefully in the same location, like an 8x8, for all the digital stamps on there. That's what we're asking. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about text size, height, title blocks. I know they vary between different consultants. So we're keeping that in mind. We're not too rigid right now. But, if something's definitely one-off, we're definitely going to kind of send it back and say, hey, you got to fix your standards.
Okay. Who decides if an active non-essential project is in a safe condition? And if not, what is required to get it to a safe condition? The contractor has one of our projects up on cribbing, no foundation, no perimeter wall. Is that considered safe? And can they work to get the house properly supported?
That's on case-to-case basis. Do they have it? I mean, I would advise a contractor to get an engineer to look at it. I mean, depends on what the condition is. I mean, sometimes it's easy to basically just put some temporary shoring, lateral bracing on it and call it a day and leave it for 3 weeks until, this shelter-in-place order expires, depending on the condition. So they need an engineering evaluation report, sent to us, and, some pictures to, follow up. And then, if it's, and then if we need to, we'll come down and do an inspection to see, what's the current condition and go from there.
Is submittal of permits only for essential projects? And how about applications for permits without drawings?
Yeah. So, I mean, right now we're, depends what the project is for. I mean, right now we're doing a lot of, like repair, some roof leaks, that has to do with the habitability of the structure. So, I mean, we want to issue permits for that. So, the tenants can stay, or the, owners can stay in the house, and basically have their roof, repaired or replaced, or, so, I mean, it varies on the permits, but right now we're not doing, so all the permits that we're accepting, that we're allowing come in are essential or priority. And, you could check on the website, sfgov.org, and, there are links to, what's considered essential, what's considered priority.
And again, like I just mentioned, Corey, by the end of April, we hope to be expanding that to a much larger universe and to include non-essential projects as well as the essentials, which we will be taking in starting tomorrow.
All right, next one in the queue. I need access to record plans for projects from over 50 years ago. If I send the application number, can the records team send us digital copy for review? And who would we need to contact if we need to review record plans?
Again, you'll be contacting the DBI customer service email portal. We are currently working on a process for understanding how we will facilitate requests such as that. So it's a work in progress right now, really. So we're working on it, and we understand that there is some need for facilitating requests such as that.
And at the bottom of the queue, I did just pop in the sfdbi.org/contact us, which has the phone number and the email address.
It should be 558-6088, and it's DBI customer service. I'm not remembering the rest of it, but that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah, at sfgov.org.
Right.
All right. next in the queue. At this time, given that the shelter in place ends on May 3rd, assuming it's not extended, will all construction projects be allowed to proceed again?
If the shelter in place is lifted, I don't see why they wouldn't be allowed to continue, but you know, our colleagues from planning can chime in there, but I don't see an issue
I mean,
if the order is lifted.
yeah, a lot of this has been determined by the health officials, you know, and how we come out of this. I think they'll have some input into also, but that's our expectation. I think to be determined.
I do want to have a plug. A week from Friday, we will be joined by our friends at Nibby Brothers to talk about what safety on a construction site looks like right now for folks that are working, what that process looks like practically. We'll be diving into that a little bit because I think folks are interested. All right, next up from Daniel Perez, should a non-essential project that was in the process of review be submitted hard copy to complete review, or should the drawings be scanned and submitted digitally? We have approval from building and PUC, but need to complete fire and MEP.
That's a hard one. I mean, that's right in the middle of the process. I mean, if it's approved by building, it depends on what expedites the process. I mean, because starting tomorrow, we're accepting revisions or, you know, permits for all existing permits that's already in place. So if this is, if this is kind of made it all the way through, I have to check the permit application or whatnot to see where it is in the process and what the plans look like and, you know, how big the drawings are. And because if it takes too much effort to turn these digitally to go on, we would like to continue. We would like to continue this with paper plans, but you know, we got to vet. You know, this is something that we need to vet project specific first prior to, you know, informing the customer whether they can or can't do paper submittals, whether they can or can't, you know, should do electronic submittals.
All right, next one, Jared Johnson. We are a design and build and have 3 projects going where the buildings are not habitable and the owners are needing to move back in. We need to make cabinets in our cabinet shop to finish these projects, but the building owner won't allow work to be done in the building because he doesn't think the work is considered essential. What would you say that this work is essential? And if you could provide us with a note saying that the work is essential to the building owner. So this sounds like a little bit also just kind of about the supply chain aspects of everything.
I can respond to that. A lot of that is not really a DBI question. It seems that it's more the homeowner and in communication with maybe the contractor and the cabinet shop. And the part of it that is DBI is it essential? So, you know, we look at these things on a case-by-case basis. And like I said earlier, facilitating or having continued habitability is always something that we want to promote as essential, because getting somebody back in their home and them having a kitchen and a bathroom is what we all want, right? So, you know, I can't speak to the conversations between the homeowner and the cabinet maker, contractor, but we have a single point of contact here at DBI who just makes decisions because we want to ensure consistency. So we have one of our senior inspectors, and he is assisted by another senior to help make decisions based on these requests to continue work. And that's one of the tough ones right there, because if somebody is moved out of their house and they have somewhere else to live, and if 3 weeks doesn't impact them too much, then we think, well, maybe it's better to delay rather than having people go back in there working in close proximity to each other. So case by case is really the answer.
Okay.
I see that Daniel Perez has his hand up. Daniel, I'm just curious, are you following up on a question that you wrote, or is it a brand new question?
Yeah, sounds good.
Daniel?
It's a that I had asked.
Thanks.
that we're mid-process in over-the-counter review.
Yeah, go
whether-
ahead. Go ahead, do a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. To determine whether we're better to just stay the paper route for this over-the-counter. We did receive some MEP comments, and those have been addressed. So just, I can email you the permit application number so that you can let me know whether we should just stay on course with paper.
Yeah, why don't you send it to DBI customer service at sfgov.org.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question for planning. We have a couple of variance applications. Where do we go to submit those applications?
Yeah, absolutely. So the link that I provided earlier in the chat, the SF planning link with all the updates, there's instructions on how to file a new planning entitlement application. But the short of it is it's no different than pre-shelter in place, going to Rich's points from earlier. We had some electronic systems set up to allow for online applications. So the easiest way to do that is to gather all the documents. That's basically our intake request form, a project application, in this case, your variance application, and all the other documents that go with the variance. So, your plans, pre-app materials, that sort of thing. And then email them to our planner technicians at cpc.intake@sfgov.org. And our planner techs are working remotely and will complete the intakes once you have that done. They will send you some special instructions that are a little bit different than our normal pre-shelter in place in terms of payment. For these types of applications, basically what we will ask you to do is become a registered user in our online portal. It's our Excella Citizen Access portal. Once you become a registered user, our planner techs will create your application, and then they'll send you the information of how you can go in through the portal to post payment electronically. So if you guys have any issues, there should be instructions again on our website that walk you through those processes.
Please address over-the-counter permits for essential projects. These were in the process of being approved. How are these being handled?
Yeah, so basically, your Form 8's synonymous with over-the-counter. I mean, they're not going to be technically over-the-counter anymore because everything's submitted online. Everything would be submitted. It's just that we have to figure out how to prioritize these projects. I mean, if there's already comments or, if there's already comments by different departments, what we do is we'll ask you guys to kind of submit these digitally, depending on the phase. I mean, if it's just to wrap up a few things, it might just be coordination with the plan reviewer to slip sheet and stamp it off and basically issue it. So, I mean, it's on a case-to-case basis. I mean, depending on the project as well, too.
Cool. Next, Mr. Badner just chimed in, and I think we can echo from a hack staff perspective and everybody else, just reiterating kudos to both teams here, DBI planning and all the staff that's doing all of this stuff. Incredibly appreciated, and we can get reactions that include claps at the bottom, and I can start clapping for everybody there. Okay, next up from Dale Hill, we have a home remodel with an ADU that is completed at planning and ready to move to DBI. We were told that 2 hard copies are needed to be stamped and walked over to DBI. Given the timing of everything, how should we proceed?
I don't know where that is the process. I don't know if this is a submitted project or if this is a, like an over-the-counter project, who has an application or whatnot. I mean, I would write down all the information and send it to SF, DBI customer service at sfgov.org to, just so our staff could vet it and get more information regarding the project. I mean, I think right now, a lot of the Form 8s that we have that has planning approval, or they need to get routed to planning, I think this is something that our staff is trying to address, to basically have a drop-off location, to DBI, so that we could actually get these drawings to planning.
And I would just chime in, Corey, onto that. For this one, it sounds like the project is still with the planning department physically, but we're basically ready to approve. In that case, my recommendation would be for that project to submit tomorrow electronically, akin to just a revision. Effectively, you're just submitting the whole set of plans electronically into the system. And then basically what will happen is that will get routed to your planner, who otherwise would have hard copy stamped them. and they'll just stamp them electronically and then can process them forward to DBI electronically. That's going to definitely, for this project, be the fastest way forward, since we're not sending folks into the office to stamp projects like that right now.
Okay. And then from Mr. David Crozier, question about Costa-Hawkins waiver, where the state is not going to accept any electronic signatures. Any idea if the city is, if there's any conversations about changing that, because waivers do need to get submitted. I realize it's a state level question, but.
We've flagged that for our city attorneys to try to problem solve ways around that. And right now we don't have any. Yeah, we're kind of stuck there right now, but we're trying to work through some solutions. We know that's going to be a roadblock.
Cool. 3 minutes left to keep rolling through from Stephen Aiello for Director Hillis and Planning. The draft APEZ map was expanded in February 2020, has delayed many projects because they were previously class 32 CADX because they were outside the map boundary. What is the status of the standard mitigating conditions for diesel construction equipment that the city is developing? Pre-virus timeline was Board of Supervisors summer adoption. Any idea of that schedule?
Yeah, we know how important this legislation is, so we're trying to keep it on schedule as much as we can. It's got to be heard first, I think, by the Historic Preservation Commission just to get comments, and that's even on their calendar for next week. So then we'll bring it to Planning Commission and to the board. And I encourage folks to support this when it comes up to various public meetings, because there will be guaranteed to be some questions about it and concerns. So it'd be good to turn out supporters too.
Cool. So we're going to do 2 more questions. First, our non-essential project has an approved site permit, and we're looking to submit an over-the-counter addendum. Do we follow up with the same instructions for digital submissions? And then also asking about process for payments as well.
That's true.
Yeah. So by the end of the month, we'll be able to accept these projects for non-essential projects. Payment, we're working on a payment system to make sure that the customer could either send in a check or wire transfer. Right now, we're still setting up process with credit card payments. For permit issuance wise, everything is digital. We could actually, once we receive payment, we could actually, scan or basically email job cards and approved drawings, to the customer.
And then this last question, which is what we will end it on, and it actually ties into something that Hack staff is doing. All of this information we're talking about, when realistically are updates going onto the website, just so folks can go and get this information themselves, as opposed to having to bug you folks. I know Liz has shared the website, and I pinged it a couple times, and we can share it around. Are websites good places to get this information? And then to circle back on Todd's overall question, it seems like the DBI customer service at sfgov.org is the best place to send DBI questions as kind of the intake form. So I guess, how often is stuff being updated? And then for the planning department, is there a similar place that we could be sending?
I mean, that page, the page Liz gave too, is the one where we constantly update almost on a daily basis. So I'd say start there.
And
Director Reardon?
Corey, yeah, I want to state that what you mentioned, SFDBI customer service.org is the best place to go for DBI related matters. We're updating our website as often as we can, and our communications director is working with the SFGov website to update that as regularly as we can also. So just that's our perspective.
Awesome.
So this is Todd. I just want to thank you, Rich, and you, Patrick, and your teams for coming and answering our members' questions. We really appreciate it. I apologize to everyone if we weren't able to get to all the questions. Corey and I both certainly encourage you, please reach out to the planning department and to DBI. And if for some reason you are having trouble getting answers, please let Corey and I know, and we are more than happy to kind of, help get those answers also. I did see a little bit earlier that Judson True joined the call. I don't know if Judson is still on the conference, but if he is, I was going to give him an opportunity if he just wanted to give.
I was like half listening, lurking, and on the phone. And
Okay.
I'm really glad that I was paying attention when you called me out, Todd.
Yeah, good.
But I've been working really, really hard and really closely with Patrick and Rich and Liz and Cyril and others since this order came out. And I think I've talked to many of the people who I see on my development squares game here and that I'm looking at on the Zoom. And I know this is a really challenging time, not just professionally but personally for everyone and for many people. And we're doing everything we can to respond to the health order and really keeping that public safety forefront, but also seeing what we can to allow the work that's allowed to continue to proceed. And I really appreciate all the work that Patrick, Rich, their teams have done on behalf of the mayor. It's happy to thank them in front of everyone here. And I know that the transition to electronic plan review is not it's not going to be a perfectly smooth or simple one, but I think we're going to come out the other side of it with a more efficient process that works better for everyone. And really appreciate everyone's patience while we make that transition.
And I also want to just kind of add two quick things here at the end. SFAC staff has been working with regional partners about putting together a resource page where we have basically the best updated website for ideally every county and every city around the Bay Area. So we will certainly put what was shared here today into that resource page and expect in the next couple of days. We're hoping that that will be a good resource for all of our members across the board. And then one other last plug, if you didn't see the email that just went out, we have our spring symposium will be a digital format this year with Director Hillis and SFMTA Director Tumlin, May 27th. Mark your calendars. Hopefully everybody can RSVP, and that should be a fantastic event. We will do the social networking happy hour, whatever it is, at a future date, but we are planning for a digital spring symposium as well.
And Corey, when are we having the Turner Center join us next week?
Yeah, so the next one of these, we're basically doing a once a week in the evenings on top of our regular Redcom and project reviews. So next Wednesday at 4 o'clock, the Turner Center, UC Berkeley Turner Center will be presenting local, state, and federal responses to COVID-19. So specifically, what have the three local, state, and federal levels of government done as it relates to housing and COVID? We will send emails to the full list. Everybody should be able to get those. And I know other people have also asked, we will send a link to this video as well back out to members so they can watch. And again, if you didn't get all your questions answered, we do apologize, and let's keep reaching out and have conversations.
And I promised we would get everyone done in time to make it to your Passover Seder tonight. So I'm going to go downstairs to mine right now. And so anyway, if you're celebrating that, enjoy. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Good to see everyone. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thanks much, everybody. Have a great day.